What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-View-Point edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. This is the end of our weeks-long bevy of content that we've got, which means that it's time for the 2017 Survivor Series pay-per-view post-show. We're going to be recapping the events that transpired just a little bit ago and giving you my review and my thoughts on everything that happened. And, of course, I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, flying solo on this edition. It's a little late for a lot of other people. They got work in the morning and all that other kind of stuff. But I have work in other kind of capacities, so I get to stay up and not get any sleep. But nevertheless, I gotta say, just really quickly, this was a great pay-per-view, and I know that sometimes there's a little bit of flack on some different things when I'm criticizing the way that WWE does things, and a lot of people say I never really like anything, and then there's other people that if I say that I like a whole thing, everybody starts getting into the whole like, oh my god, you're a WWE mark, and whatever like that. But for you're in the negative category and you think that this was a bad pay-per-view, while I'm going through here and I'm saying the things that I liked about it, I want you to kind of keep track of what's going on, timestamp something, and respond with what you didn't like about it. And for the things that I'm going to say that I didn't necessarily like, because there was a couple things here and there, if you did like it, do the opposite, drop them in the comments below. But overall, this was a fantastic pay-per-view, and between last night's NXT TakeOver War Games being, for the most part, really great, a couple little hiccups here and there, and then this being a huge step up from what we have been seeing lately, not just with pay-per-views, but with the build for this event too. This has just been a real big surprise, and a welcomed surprise, because we really needed something like this to be good. This could have been terrible, and the way that they had the card lined up just a few weeks ago, it was looking like it could have been pretty bad. But they changed a bunch of things around, they swapped a couple titles, they replaced some people on different teams, and it ended up being a fantastic card with a couple things that I think we're missing a little bit, and we're going to get into that. But first things first, let's talk about the pre-show. I always bitch and complain about the pre-shows because I think that they are predominantly a waste of time, and it's bothersome to sit through an hour and feel like you wasted it. When it comes to the big four events, they have them for 2 hours, and going into this, they only had one match that was announced, which was Enzo Amore against Kalisto. I had no real interest in that, and that match was just okay. It was kind of blah, and not something that you really need to even pay any attention to at all. But they didn't make the mistake of making that the only pre-show match. They thankfully added 2 more to the card. One of them was a total necessity, and the other one, not so much, but still a welcome surprise. The one that wasn't really necessary was having Elias beat Matt Hardy. I'm okay with those two being left off the card if it came down to it, but I do think that it's good that Elias got onto the card. Matt Hardy wasn't as much of a priority as Elias, but Elias is somebody who I think that they actually want to invest in. And to not have him make any appearance on the show at all would have been a little bit weird. So if they would have just had him come out and do some kind of a musical performance, I would have been okay with that. But having a match instead, that's good too. And it's a good way to give Elias another win. Matt Hardy doesn't need to have another win. He's well past the point in his career where he needs wins. So I liked that. The Enzo match, we knew that Enzo would be retaining, so that's no real big surprise. The match itself, as I said, you could skip it, doesn't really matter. Then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn come out to cut a promo about how it's a disgrace that they're going to be facing Breezango and that they should be doing something more, and that that's the real crime, is that they've been overlooked and such. So first, it was good to see Owens and Zayn. It was good to have them acknowledge everything. And then they were also facing a team that I wanted to see, too. Breezango is a team that I like quite a bit. And between those two teams, Owens and Zayn were the ones that should have won the match, so they did. And that's going to continue a trend here where they made the right call for pretty much damn near everything. A couple things I'll disagree with here and there, but again, can't talk about it all in one shot. So the pre-show had a lot of added content to it, and that helped offset the analysis type stuff. I don't know why I said that weird. Analysis. The analysis stuff is usually pretty boring, and it's usually something that you don't need to see if you've been watching the content. And if you're somebody who's not watching Raw and SmackDown, you're probably not going to care about the pre-show anyway. So that's something to keep in mind. But they had Shawn Michaels in the pre-show panel, so that was good. I always like seeing HBK. And overall, even though the pre-show was something that you can skip, it was a better pre-show than what we've been getting for the past couple events. So I like that, just good enough. But that took us into the main card itself. And we started off with a bang with The Shield versus The New Day, which was a great match, evenly paced. I liked how The New Day actually looked like they could get the win, even though they are, I don't even think it's an argument, they're the weaker team. Because if you put any singles competitor against each other in that, you put Big E against anybody on the Shield side, Xavier Woods on anybody on the Shield side, and Kofi against anybody, they don't stand much of a chance. So for the Shield to have that good of a fight against the New Day is as good as you could possibly hope. There were a couple times where the New Day seemed like they could possibly win it. And I figured that wasn't going to be the case. Ended up being correct when it came to that. But the Shield were the right call. They should have won this match because they're the ones that kind of needed it a little bit more. Oddly enough, isn't that strange that they actually need the win? But that's because the Shield hadn't gotten their actual reunion. So their first match really together outside of that one on Raw would have been weird if they would have lost it. And if you put Raw in the lead, you got to kind of like carry the momentum going forward in a different way. And I was really glad that what they didn't do was have the next match be one of the ones that SmackDown won. Because it's a little bit too predictable to go Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw. Instead, they went with a little bit of a comeback story. Because the next match was also won by Raw, which was the women's elimination match. Team Raw, if you are totally unaware and you want me to give the full breakdown, Alicia Fox, Asuka, Bayley, Nia Jax, and Sasha Banks, defeating Becky Lynch, Carmella, Naomi, Natalya, and Tamina. Natalya had been announced just yesterday. They had said that it was a mystery participant for the team, and that we would find out on Survivor Series. Then they just decided, the hell with it, let's just announce her anyway. So I kind of didn't really like how they had done that. I really would have been, well, let's put it this way. If they would have only gone with Natalya on the pay-per-view, it would have been disappointing. And people would have expected to have somebody like Paige or Nikki Bella or somebody from NXT come up. But if they were going to just do that, they should have just announced Natalya on Tuesday and not had that extra little bit of time where it was like, oh, I wonder who it's going to be. So I wasn't really all that big on Natalya being in the match. And it was weird for her to be the final person on that team, but she was just a former champion, so I'm cool with it. But I was really shocked by Becky Lynch being the first person eliminated. That was a big surprise. Bayley gets eliminated by Tamina. Nia Jax gets eliminated by countout. Good call. That was another thing where that kept Nia Jax looking strong. I probably would have waited maybe a little bit longer, maybe had her be like 1 or 2 eliminations after that, but that's nitpicking, and they still hit the right thing there. Alicia Fox's elimination by Naomi was very awkward because it seemed like Naomi wanted to get her to tap out, but Alicia thought that she was supposed to get pinned, so that was very strange. That was, if I'm going to be trying to find things to nitpick and things to say were low points, that would have been one of the low points, but nobody gives a shit. The point was Alicia Fox got eliminated by Naomi. Didn't matter if it was a little bit awkward. Naomi then eliminated by Sasha Banks, and then this is another thing that I'm a fan of too. I don't like it when they do the whole like Becky eliminates Bayley, and then Bayley gets eliminated, and then whoever eliminated Bayley gets eliminated, and then, I don't like when they do that kind of trade-off, so it was good to see that they didn't do that kind of a breakdown, because we got Becky, Bayley, then Bayley eliminated by Tamina, and then Nia, and then Alicia, then they did Naomi does an elimination, and then gets eliminated, that kind of thing, but we did bounce around a little bit. Carmella put up quite a bit of fight. She gets eliminated by Asuka. Sasha Banks gets eliminated by Natalya. And then we're down to Tamina and Natalya against Asuka. And at this point, I was very happy with the way that had turned out because I wanted Tamina to be the final person, and I wanted Asuka to be the final person, and for Asuka to get the win on Tamina. So they switched it around a little bit. Tamina gets eliminated at first, and Natalya falls victim to Asuka, which still ends up in the same boat that what I was looking for. Asuka being not just the main reason that Raw won, but the sole survivor. That is exactly how I was hoping that it would go. That's the smart move to make. And I don't know why they can't make decisions like that more often. So perfect for that. I'm very, very happy with the way that turned out. By that point, we're Raw up by 2, and SmackDown doesn't have any. So we needed to kind of turn the tables a little bit. Well, The Miz versus Baron Corbin goes, again, same way that I was hoping that it would. Baron Corbin gets the win for Team SmackDown. And that ends up being a little bit of a momentum shift. So we got 2 for Raw, 1 for SmackDown. The match itself, nothing really to write home about, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it wasn't going to be a 5-star classic, and it wasn't going to be a match of the year candidate, but at the same time, I thought it was pretty good. It was good enough, especially for 2 people that are both heels, and they're working against each other with being on separate brands and different things like that. This ended up being decent enough that I have no complaints about it. And as I said before, Baron Corbin gets the win. I think that he needed it. The Miz could take the loss. He's the smaller guy between the two. And Corbin needed the win to kind of offset some of his losses recently. Then we get the Usos against the Bar. Another solid match. Again, right decision to have the Usos win here. This was the one that I was going back and forth about because I wasn't sure what the placement on the card was going to be. And if this would have been the buffer between Brock and AJ and the men's elimination match, then I thought we could have maybe seen it go a different way or something like that. But it all sort of depended on who was going to win that men's elimination match. And we'll get to that later. But as soon as the Usos won, and I figured that they would win when they were booked on this part of the night, then I was thinking to myself, all right, men's elimination match, that's going to be a Team Raw win. But another good match. I liked it top to bottom. No complaints. I like how the Usos were playing up the babyface part, how they were making fun of the Bar ahead of time. A lot of people seem to be really liking doing that whole, we are the Bar kind of thing. So I got a laugh out of me. But that was another good call. And by that point, we're 2-2, Raw and SmackDown tied. So somebody has to upset the tie. And that was Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair. Very competitive match. Better than the Usos in the Bar and The Miz and Baron Corbin. I like this match a lot. They did a lot with what they didn't necessarily have to do, which is, if you look at it from a technical perspective, Charlotte Flair is the bigger girl. She should, by all intents and purposes, be the dominant person. Same as with Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles. But they had at least enough of a back and forth exchange where Alexa Bliss looked like she could have potentially won the match a couple times. That was another good call. The right decision was made yet again. Charlotte Flair winning the match. She was the babyface. Alexa can lose and kind of bounce back just as easily as The Miz can, so that makes sense. And I dug the match. I was kind of surprised about how many times they were doing like sunset flip power bombs and stuff like that. I kind of realized that in my brain that was like a 4-time thing during the match or so, but whatever. I had written up after this a big thing complaining about Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles, where it was at the beginning of the match, this started off and I was thinking to myself, oh, god damn it, we're going to get another squash. And midway through this whole squash idea, I started writing up a big, paragraph after paragraph about it's a shame that WWE still values this whole Brock Lesnar thing so much that they'll cripple somebody like an AJ Styles just to get the point across, and why do they have to have a squash match and all this kind of stuff. And then he turns the tables and he starts fighting, and before you know it, it's a competitive match. AJ Styles gets a good match out of Brock Lesnar, better than what we've been seeing for a lot of different times recently. And even though I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense, because Brock is the bigger guy, and he should just ragdoll AJ Styles around, I don't want to see that over and over again. So if you got that with Randy Orton, and you got that with like the whole back and forth with Goldberg and everything, I don't want this to be a 5-minute squash or a 10-minute one-sided affair. I wanted it to be a decent contest, and it was. So that was a shock for me. I figured it was a guaranteed Brock Lesnar win, and he won, but he should win in that kind of a scenario, so I have no complaints when it comes to that either. I was very, very shocked with that, which took us to the finals of the whole situation. We've got an even score. Who's going to come out on top? Well, men's elimination, blah, 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 blah. I'm botching like what Michael Cole did when he was trying to say a monster among men. He was like, man. The men's elimination match, Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Triple H for Monday Night Raw. And SmackDown side of things is team captain Shane McMahon, Bobby Roode, John Cena, Randy Orton, and Shinsuke Nakamura. I have a little bit more to bones to pick with this match than with everything else, but I did like the match, and there were some positives in there that I wasn't expecting, and some negatives that I thought I was guaranteed to have, and that they kind of didn't do and stuff. So, one of the things I can see there being complaints about, and I don't know if I'm on board with the complaints, if that's true or not, but Nakamura and Bobby Roode are both the first two eliminated, both by Braun Strowman, and I can hear some people going, oh, God damn it, it's the two newer guys that were eliminated first, and of course you're going to leave this to John Cena and Randy Orton, blah, blah, blah. I can see the argument, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong, or that that's necessarily right, but it makes sense to me, and I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I probably would have booked things a little bit differently. Maybe I would have gone with one of those two eliminated first, and then another person, or maybe switched up the match a little bit here and there, but I know that the end result matters more, and as long as people aren't being buried, then that's the bigger issue, because we've had issues in the past where somebody like a Ryback has been eliminated within, 3 minutes or something like that, and you're like, oh my God, come on, you want the guy to lose and look stupid. That didn't happen here. We had a couple little spots here and there with different people. We got to see Nakamura scrap a little bit with Triple H, and we got the Bobby Roode Triple H thing, and Nakamura, Finn Balor, and some other kind of back and forth type of ideas that we might not ever see again. So that was nice to see. And it was cool to see Braun Strowman get that too, because he was one of my people that I really wanted to stand out in this match. Samoa Joe after that gets eliminated by John Cena. So that could be a little bit of an impetus for a future feud. Maybe at WrestleMania, maybe not. We got a little bit of a tease of Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman. So that's a possibility for WrestleMania too. We could get Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe this year, and then get John Cena versus Jinder Mahal. And then next year, get John Cena, Samoa Joe. Or we could get John Cena, Samoa Joe on just a regular Raw and SmackDown type of feud. John Cena then gets eliminated by Kurt Angle. I was a little bit shocked about that because that left Randy Orton and Shane McMahon on Team SmackDown. And I did not expect those to be the last two. I figured one of the last two would have been John Cena, and the other one could have been Shane McMahon or could have been Nakamura. But nonetheless, we get Orton and McMahon. Finn Balor, at that point, I was looking at the group and I was like, well, only Samoa Joe's been eliminated from Raw. So we can't have Orton and McMahon beat Angle, Strowman, Balor, and Triple H. Like one person against those or something like that. So the next elimination has to be Monday Night Raw. And out of that list, I was like, all right, Balor's going to get an RKO. He's going to eat one of those in the next 3 minutes. And he did. So good to see that happen. Randy Orton then, though, eliminated by Braun Strowman. And I was shocked about that, because I thought that Braun Strowman would only be eliminated with some interference from Kane. So that was a shocker to me. Also a shocker, no Jason Jordan interference, because I thought that that could potentially take Triple H out of the match, or that he could be trying to do something with Triple H and he could accidentally hit Kurt Angle, and then that could be why Angle gets eliminated, or cause a distraction and Angle gets distracted and that's why he gets eliminated, that kind of a thing. But no, the whole thing with Kane. And at that point, we've got Strowman, we've got Triple H, and we got Kurt Angle against Shane McMahon. And the next to go is Kurt Angle, but he's eliminated by Shane McMahon because of a pedigree by Triple H. I thought we'd see some kind of Angle Triple H stuff, but I didn't think that we'd get that. So that was a shock. Although right after that, everybody was sitting there going, but he's totally going to pedigree Shane McMahon though, right? And then he pedigrees Shane McMahon. Triple H gets the final pin, and we end up with Triple H and Braun Strowman are the victorious ones for Team Raw, and that ends up being the ball game. That's Team Raw ends up getting the majority win just by one extra win. That one victory puts him over, but you can tell that there's going to be tension. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn interfered in this match to beat down on Shane McMahon, so that's another thing that makes SmackDown look a little bit better, that they actually had a problem when it came to that. That was outside interference. It should have been a disqualification, but whatever. You can't really disqualify everybody on Team Raw, so you just kind of let it go. But that means that we can continue on with this whole Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn feud, and we can get the continuation of Kurt Angle and Triple H. Triple H has a little bit of momentum to go forward and say, like, you know, he came in as the savior and everything like that. But just to send people home happy and just to give a little bit more of a boost to Braun Strowman, after the match, he beats the shit out of Triple H and ends up looking like a stud. So I thought this was a great pay-per-view. This is definitely in my running for best pay-per-view of the year for sure. If not the standout one that I will end up giving this the award to at the end of the year. But I am a big fan of how they booked this. I was not expecting it to go down the way that it did, as well as it did. There were some things that I was anticipating, like a Jinder Mahal interference with AJ Styles that we didn't get, and I'm happy that we didn't get some of them. Some of them I think that maybe we could have gone a different way or so, but even though I would have liked to have seen Kane interfere and cost Braun Strowman something, I'm more happy about the idea that Braun Strowman got to be one of the victors and that he got this big focal point at the end, because that's what it boils down to. Is Braun Strowman's a guy that I want them to give more of an investment for in the future. They proved tonight that they know what they have for some people that maybe didn't necessarily get the best course of actions over the past couple of months, and that maybe they're kind of readjusting the way that they're doing things. So I liked Survivor Series a lot. I thought it was fantastic, and I want to know what you guys have to say about this. Drop a comment below and tell me what you thought about these different matches. What are your favorite and your least favorite parts? And if you are watching this on YouTube, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Check off that you want notifications for the awareness of the next couple of things that we're going to be posting here. I just did a Sporkle quiz yesterday. That's going to be going up a little bit on later on next week, a little bit closer to Thanksgiving. We're also going to do the hot tags, of course. That's the next thing that you guys are going to hear me from. It'll be probably tomorrow night. So a couple things to break down when it comes to that. And the week after that, we're going to be taking care of the mailbag for November. So start sending in your questions as soon as you can, and I will backlog that throughout this week so we can get to them next week. But if you are not on if you are not on YouTube, then you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. And of course, no matter where you are, you can always go to smarkoutmoment.com if you want to subscribe to that RSS feed. That's another way for you to be aware of everything that we post. But until then, I will see you next time, everybody. That's it for me right now. Thanks for listening to this. Thanks for all the continued support and everything like that. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and I'm being counted out.